Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for making the effort to be here. Greatly appreciate it. This is the Underground Utilities Mapping Project Team meeting of December 7th, 2023. And the agenda as previously offered, chair opening comments by Barb, vice chair administrative items, and then we're going to spend an hour and 15 minutes working our way through project updates that are going to cover outreach and promotion, project management, product development, and status of where our sister projects are. And then for the last 30 minutes, to the degree that 25 minutes to the degree that we want to do it, floor will be open for discussion. And then at this point, I always stop Barb and say, Barb, please check your schedule. Will March 14th work for you?
Well, I'm sure it will at that time of day. I don't know where I'll be because we have damage prevention meetings. So we'll be in some city in Minnesota on that day.
So do you want to roll it back to the 7th?
No, it'll be on the 7th as well. It's 2 months of meetings.
Okay.
So let's just keep it what we have it.
Okay. We'll do that. So that's it, unless there are any additions, deletions, changes from the floor to the agenda. Otherwise, Barb, the floor is all yours.
Oh, good. Well, thank you for attending, everybody. Some of you are closer to what's going on, and others tuning in maybe for the first or it's been in a while. But in the last several months, a lot of progress has been happening. Every time I turn around, it's another big advance. So today, please listen. Please give us input, ideas, feedback. We're all in this together to make this the best offering that we can have for the underground safety community. So with that, I look forward to hearing all your comments at the end of during or at the end of the session today.
Okay. Thank you, Barb. Now you have to listen to me blab for a few minutes, like for a while. Our next leadership meeting, for those of you that might have forgotten, will be next Friday, December 15th at 10 a.m., followed by, as just approved here, the next large group meeting. So scribble it down, but I'll always follow it up with a Zoom notification, send it out for March 14th. I can't believe it. The year 2024. Who thought we'd ever get there? Anyway, 1 p.m. in the afternoon. And then once again, I'm going to be out gallivanting around the countryside like some of our programmers do. February 13th through March 3rd, I will be, hopefully not breaking a leg in Colorado. So that's the idea behind that one. So if you need to get a hold of me, know that gap is going to exist in there. Shoot me an email. If there's something that needs to get done before I disappear into the Rockies, by all means, please shoot me an email and we'll take it from there. So what we're going to wander through here as the project updates, as I've indicated, and to try to give a theme to this and maybe help, lock things in your brain as I talk my way through it, we're going to jump in the pool. So our first swim lane that we're going to be going down will be announced here shortly, as we've already talked about. But as Barb has already indicated, down there in that right-hand corner, it says something about ideas and questions. So if you come up with an idea as we're, whizzing through this thing, or you have a question, please, by all means, jot it down. And if the opportunity doesn't present itself as I'm flapping my gums here, or other people are chiming in with their parts of the presentation, then at least we've got an in section here where you can bubble that stuff to the top, or as you see fit. But by all means, as Barb's indicated, we want to try to keep this as a participatory to the degree that it makes sense to do so, walkthrough. So I think I first need to say to you, and into the pool we go. So here we are. Swim lane number 1 is outreach and promotion. And we're going to look at 5 elements there: past events, upcoming events, where the website is currently at, a wonderful development over in promotional media, and then thought about anticipated product feedback sessions going forward. So here we go. Past events. We met last on September 21st. And on that day, our fearless Bob Bisquez was out in Pittsburgh providing a conference update to the folks for Energous, which is the Marcellus Shale production area, West Virginia, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. And from all reports, that was well received. October 4th through 6th. Once again, Bob Bisquez and Jim Klassen were in attendance at the Minnesota GIS LIS conference in Duluth, Minnesota, and provided 2 different updates on our project. Some people call us MUMP. I'm still a fan of UUMPT, but that's just me. But anyway, you get the idea. They did an overview brief in one case, and they also did an inside the MUMP project, driving down into some details. November 6th was the CGA working meeting in Indianapolis, if I remember correctly, Barb. And November 14th was followed by Jeff Law being kind enough from Earth to participate in one of our research interview discussions. And as you can see, there were several of us involved in that call. And the feedback piece that I would give you from that interview is that Jeff continues to reinforce the idea that he's not seeing anything in the approach that we're taking that will be an issue from Earth's perspective. And we want to try to continue to collaborate with the overall software and call center community so that we ensure whatever we deliver here is a viable and usable product. And then just this morning, good old Bob once again got roped into being over at the Excavation Safety Alliance Town Hall, which focused on vacuum excavation. And I believe the theme that Bob would have been presenting is anything that can increase the fidelity of where we know where stuff is underground is a good thing, but the real value is going to become in making that known to others. So I'll shut up for a second. And Bob, is there anything you want to add to that?
Not really. I mean, there's a prep meeting on it tomorrow. They basically are going to go through the whole kind of panel question, angle, kind of figure out what the themes are going to be for the panel, that kind of stuff. So,
okay. Yeah, I correct myself. I'm a week ahead of where I need to be. So you've got the event coming up. I apologize. So yeah, I don't even know what day I'm on. That's how bad off I am. Barb, is there anything you want to add about the CGA meeting?
It was the working meeting of the Next Practices GIS. And the focus that they want to do is write some executive materials for the facility operators. Why this mapping and viewing of maps and updating and improving accuracy of maps is so important. So that's the big focus out of that group.
Okay, thank you. All right, so move Bob's event forward to December 14th. And then that will be the last event during 2024. Too many meetings, too much confusion. But anyway, so there it is, 2024. As you can see, the Bob and Barb show is going to be under some significant traveling to make good things happen. And as you can see the rundown there, it starts out in Minnesota. And oh, perish the thought that Barb would have to go to Banff, Alberta to present in wintertime. And then followed by the March events, both down in New Orleans, which parallels what's going on with the excavation the Global Excavation Safety Conference, I believe is what it's called. The Facility Notification Centers Association meeting. Then she's going to jump a jet and manage to get up to the Distribution Contractors Association, American Gas Association workshop in Kansas City, followed in April with the CGA conference and expo submitted, Colorado Springs, and then Minnesota Transportation Conference and Expo also submitted. Hasn't been accepted as an abstract yet, but by all indications, we're thinking we're going to be good with that.
Just one thing, Steve, I haven't
Yep.
submitted the CGA one yet. I should make
Okay.
a note and follow up with them.
Okay. And then we had 2 inquiries with the On-Site magazine. We believe that article is pending. And then we got some folks in India that came knocking on the door. And it almost looks to me, from what I've been able to figure out, that organization is probably not going to be around, because they were looking for sponsors for their publication in November, and they're showing it gapped all the way through January. So I'm not sure what's going to end up happening there. But anyway, that's what we got on the list for upcoming events. And I think I need to, once again, so website. Where we are with this beast right now is that the front side has been reworked, but it, with kind of like all the stuff that we're involved in here, it's going to continue to be a work in progress. So I'm going to jump over and walk you through what's going on over there, I think. So here you go.
Somewhere here, but it's quiet. How you going?
Pretty good. Okay.
Okay,
All right.
yeah, considering everything, yeah.
Okay, can I ask you to check your mutes, please? So that we.
I feel like I talked to everybody today. Jason, Denny
Oh,
updated me on some things going on with
Right.
the marketing.
right. And
Braxton
thank
thing.
Yeah.
So
Rhonda,
Dwayne, could I?
just trying to figure out benefits for bridging and all that stuff. So it's like.
Hello, Dwayne. Can I? Yeah, thank you very much, sir. So if you're not on mute and whatever, please, by all means, give some consideration to getting there. Appreciate that. Okay, so for those of you that haven't been here for a while, the front page remains largely unchanged. The next page back being the About page, and hopefully we got some level of making this thing work. But we're currently working on trying to speed up page transition. This page contained the majority of the content in the past, and it's been, if you will, chopped up into making sure that the background piece is largely background, and we'll be looking to see what we can do in terms of getting some sort of brochure, and I'll talk about that here in just a minute when we get into social media and the rest of it. But the idea is going to be, hopefully, like this presentation here is going to be linked in here as the primary, what's going on with our effort. And then the folks over at the support staff at One Call Concepts, their development team for brochures and things of that nature, are going to be working on trying to put something together for us. So that stuff will be able to be, accessed and downloaded, things of that nature. What I've done over on the Join Us page is, by all means, I'm asking folks to come in and look at this. And if for any reason I managed to forget that you've been participating in this effort up to this point, by all means, please shoot me a note. I didn't do it through intention or whatever. It's just jumping through to get stuff done, and I very well could have overlooked it. A good feedback item already from One Call Concepts is we'll be masking out the phone numbers and the emails in a way which will allow access to them, but make them bot proof. But on the bottom of the page, we'd love to hear from you. And we've offered up the contacts that would be appropriate in there. outreach. What I've tried to show there is articles that have been into the news and some upcoming presentations that we just walked through, and then followed by supporters. And on the supporter page, a nod to the folks that are providing funding, those folks that have put forward endorsements. If there's somebody we've collaborated with up to this point to get things up, we've tried to acknowledge that, and then media. So this is a rough in of the layout of the content, and to the degree that as the discussion gets going with One Call Concepts, we may look at doing fancying up things with logos and maybe scrolling script and that kind of stuff. And then, of course, the last thing here being the contact piece. So that's the idea behind, what's gone on over at the website. There's a link, and maybe I should just jump back there for a second. There's a link down on the front page. And for those of you, again, that have been onto the page before, or onto the website before, you're probably aware that previously there was some more restricted kind of information. And that's going to be on a login page that you'll have to have the magic password to get through, but it isn't going to be a big deal to have access. And what's going to be on that backside will be the links to the meeting records and recordings, outreach documents as they get developed so that they're available for download, whenever they're needed. We're currently in the process of working through creating onboarding documents. Legal is way ahead on that, and technical will be getting started here. And I'll explain that in a little bit more detail as we get down the road to the piece where the discussion revolves around where the project itself, the product is at this point. And then link to the current demonstration version. Up until I cleaned it up over the last week or so, you could still click on a link and get to our old demo site. So maybe as you notice, so that kind of wraps up the idea about, what the idea behind the website's going to be. Well, you probably noticed, maybe, that there was a logo that was slapped up there, and this is a shock to Barb because she's never seen it before. And that's not to say in any way, shape, or form this is it. What I'm trying to do here is stimulate the discussion, move us forward, and I designed a logo that basically uses the principle of some layered thoughts, and with the first thought being that the way to look at fusing something together is bringing information in from multiple directions and then creating one thing out of it. So that's the fusion. And then, of course, the view tried to mimic the thought of a camera aperture. And so that gives us the view part. And of course, yellow being the safety color that it is. And since I'm kind of a Navy person, of course, I defaulted to blue and gold. But we could do maroon and gold if we want to go down the University of Minnesota path. But anyway, also offered here, the reality that we're going to need a logo or whatever that works as a self-standing icon for, favicon and that kind of thing. And then I've tried to show, potential of if you just laid it on black by itself, how would it look, and how would it look also in a, on an app on a phone or whatever. So anyway, again, I'm trying to stimulate the discussion on this one. Once again, the OCC team's going to beat me up on that, and we'll move forward. But I'm also putting down here this thought. So to the crowd, how about February 9th as a cutoff date? If you think you have a better idea for what the logo should look like, by all means, we would like to take a look at it. So if we scribble down February 9th and you want to enter the contest for what our logo is going to end up looking like, by all means, please do it. And once again, it's a admin effort to try to move things forward. So just look at it that way. That takes us over to wandering around in our promotional media topic. And what I cannot say with enough sincerity is how much I appreciate Adam's team coming forward. The OCC creative team members have come on board. And I apologize if I mispronounce your names, but I believe it would be Kurt Klensma and Courtney Oman, or Omen is how I would think that'd be. And Courtney, you're on the call. How did I do? Did I do okay in your name?
Pretty close. I'm Courtney Omen, like a bad omen, and then
Okay.
Kurt Klensman.
Okay, thank you. So, do you want to introduce what your expertise is, if you will, and then maybe talk a little bit about Kurt?
Yeah, absolutely. So Kurt and I are both part of the OCC creative team, so essentially the marketing team that we help all of our clients out with. Kurt's our creative director, and he has a background working with teams through United Healthcare and other agencies throughout the Twin Cities. He's got a pretty extensive background in all that. And then I have a background primarily in digital marketing. I'm currently in a copywriter forward role, but I also recently graduated from the U of M with a master's in strategic communications. And so hopefully we can be coming together and take a lot of that insight into helping get the word out and getting more support.
Thank you very much, Courtney. Appreciate that. So more or less what we discussed in our meeting on December 5th is the thought that they need to be in the driver's seat about helping make sure we end up with a product that's got the zip and the message delivery to it that gets the job done. And I believe the first place that Kurt was thinking they were going to roll up their sleeves and tear apart would be the website. So they'll be giving me feedback on that and say, well, why don't you think about doing X, Y, and Z or whatever? And maybe we'll get to the point where, we turn that whole process over to something that needs, professional hands at it, but I'll hack until we get there. And then in terms of promotional flyers, a very interesting element of that discussion was that we zeroed in on the thought of, as marketing people would, who's your audience? And so they're trying their best right now to define that. And I've sent the materials which were developed, in terms of the grant request that was done to PHMSA, what we're aware of in terms of publications that are being turned out by the National Underground Asset Register in the UK, our friends in Canada's effort, as the flyer that indicates there. And then again, some of our hack work that went on earlier when we were still trying to figure out what's our name and what's our message. So they'll be taking a look at all of that stuff, trying to, if you will, channel in for the appropriate group, and then determine how to deliver that message to that group. And then the last thing that we talked about, them thinking through and perhaps developing a plan for, is the good old social media piece of, at some point, as we get further on down the road and the rollout starts to take place, how do we want to develop that social media campaign? So really looking forward to having this professional support in the project as it moves forward from here. So once again, my hat's off to that team and really looking forward to it. Okay, that takes us down to the last point in this swim lane, and that would be anticipated product feedback sessions. We're anticipating that sometime in that first quarter of 2024, we want to start the total quality management process of continuous loop of improving the product that Bob's going to be talking about as we get further into the presentation here. We just don't want to wander into the world with our head buried in the sand that we got the perfect answer and just talk to us. So that's you can anticipate perhaps requests or whatever coming down the road to make that happen as we go forward.
So Steve, I have a question.
Yep.
So FuzionView is the capability in terms of the product, right? So FuzionView is the product that pulls all this together. Do we need a name and branding when a one call center uses FuzionView for the offering? So do we need an offering name using FuzionView as the engine? So until you presented it right now, I hadn't thought we needed two different namings, but maybe we should. So I just offer that to the team here.
Do you want to work that at the leadership meeting?
Yeah, and Courtney and Kurt can do that as well. Yes.
Sure.
So yes to both.
I don't know. That sounds like another contest to me.
But the one call center will have, they've got each one call center, no matter who's their provider, has names for their capabilities, right? Is that capability FuzionView that should be used that as well as the software piece, or should there be another name? So I think we need to think about that. Yeah.
Sure. I think ultimately you're going to see that as it's released as open source, I think there'll be rebranding as it moves into OCC, or if it's Pelican Corp picks it up or whatever.
Mhm. Yeah.
I think they'll each want to put tweaks and twists on it, and subsequently give it a different name. And we have the better mousetrap because our name is such and such, or whatever the case might be. But
Okay.
Well, Steve, I would agree from a sense of like how we market our products.
Yeah.
iTick would interact with FuzionView, but I do think that you should maintain some control over the name of this product, whether it's FuzionView or something else, so that when it's seen in the public, people know what it is and can request it for their center. If it appears it's an OCC product, then people will just assume they can't get access to it. If it's FuzionView and it's standalone, then it becomes more apparent. So I think you should have brand standards and a marketing, like a set of requirements around marketing that you include with it.
okay.
Yeah, and I think Steve said it well as well. Each call center might give it a name that ties in with how they name all their offerings.
Yeah, I don't want to sidetrack the discussion too much here, but this point has come up a few times in discussions as we've been moving through things. And I think what it's kind of gelling out for me is that you have the FuzionView engine, and then you've got kind of these usage products. And I think we have enough stuff that we've been developing from our perspective, the project's perspective, that we've got something there to brand as the client. So it's going to be a FuzionView client of some sort, independent of everything else and everything that you guys have already talked about.
Dwayne Rogers, do you have any thoughts on this? My own thought was I was kind of expecting that service, whatever it was, would be named consistently by various vendors, but I'm open to other thoughts.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm just trying to get off mute. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
No, yeah, look, I agree with Adam to some degree. I think, you guys have to have your own branding. And then, if we end up picking this up to use, it'll probably sit under some other suite of products that probably we have if it's like an open source type arrangement. But, you might want to protect that product name anyway. So I think, yeah, I agree. Move ahead with your own naming convention and then take it from there, because people will probably revert back to that name a lot anyway, even if it's deployed elsewhere and with a different service name or solution name. That's my thinking.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks for the discussion on that, everybody.
I've got it listed as an agenda item for next time the leadership, so we can revisit. Okay. that takes us to swim lane number 2, project management, and 4 bullets here. Meetings. I know that's a thrilling subject. Money, staffing, and open issues. So, was your meeting long? Anyway, we have exploded, if you will, over the last 3 months in terms of the amount of meetings that we are running as it sits right now. So there's weekly and bi-weekly meetings. So I've just listed them out so you get a feel for the amount of background work that's taking place as we're moving through this thing. There's a shared geo internal development meeting that happens on Thursday. And then there's a WSB MnDOT coordination and code development meeting that happens on Friday. Bi-weekly, there's a leadership meeting. The leadership meeting used to be monthly, and now we've changed that down to bi-weekly to manage policy and design issues so that the development team can keep moving along. And then our friends up there in Canada have been holding their meeting every 2 weeks or it's kind of a twice a month thing. So I guess I should have said, what would that be, bi-monthly? No, that's not right. Semi-monthly. There, I got it correct, I think. Semi-monthly on Thursday. So there's lots there to attend. And then there's the reality of the as needed monthly and quarterly groups of meetings. And that's driven by, for instance, one of them that's taken place right now, and from my understanding is burning a pretty good chunk of time, is Shared Geo and OCC having an interoperability meeting where they're hashing out things like who is going to be the entity on the front end that provides the system authorization to use the approach of FuzionView, and working through the technical elements of how to implement that. And then there's ad hoc meetings such as the need to hire bodies, website development, and similar to that. And then you're sitting in one of them, a large group meeting. So there's lots of prep work that has to go on to make each of these meetings work. And it's what's driving the ship and moving things forward here. Oh, and by the way, there's still one out there lurking around that we'll be bringing online, we think, sometime in 2024, or we hope sometime in 2024. And that's the Development Advisory Committee to, if you will, review what's developed at a higher level and say, well, you didn't think about X, Y, and Z, and then use that as sort of our validation as to whether or not we have managed to move things forward in the correct way. So lots and lots of meetings compared to where we started out with a monthly UUMPT meeting and a monthly leadership meeting. All of that other stuff has now been layered and added on to what we're doing. All right, so everybody loves money. And so we thought we would put up here and explain to folks what the money situation looks like so they can understand maybe a little bit more clearly how the process is moving along or not moving along from their perspective. So we came into this project thinking we would need a total estimated budget of between $250,000 and $300,000. To date, we've had pledges or grants that have put money in the piggy bank to the degree of $225,000. The PHMSA grant has now been made available to a degree, and just this morning, Nancy's telling me that she has to get a bunch of stuff notarized, certified, and logged into some special system where it's going to be quadruple access requirement and all kinds of stuff. But the $100,000 grant, which will run through September of 2024, is effectively been in the process within a day or two of being turned on. So our billable expenses against that 225 that's in the piggy bank to this point is 68,800. And that's split between 53.4 and 15.4 as far as the payout between GSOC's consortium team and what will be charged to PHMSA. Okay, so I'm going to slow down here for a second and highlight this bullet that's there. Because programmer pay is substantial. And when I mean that, just so if you're out there and unaware of it, the kind of individuals that are doing the programming for this project could easily be in the range of 175 to 250 plus benefits out in the civilian sector per year. So this is a balancing act. We have to be, up to this point, we've been very careful metering hours to get to the point where it makes sense to, as I would describe it, go wide and fast. A surge staff, if you will. And this is going to be tricky because we got to balance three things at the same time. There needs to be the right mix of manpower. There needs to be technical progress being made. And there needs to be timely policy determinations so that we can quickly advance the effort before burning through allocated funds. So if any one of those three things bogs down, we're stuck in a place with the meter running. It's like getting in a cab in New York City and thinking you want to go to place X, but want to stop at Y and Z in between. And so we have to be very, very sensitive to that and move the process around. Okay, now that being said, I know there's people out there with extra cash. They just got it laying around. So by all means, if you determine that you got extra cash, please think about giving Barb a call and, helping out with the shortfall. But there you go. So here's what the staffing looks like currently. FuzionView direct support, project managers, this has been fleshed out over the last year. Project manager is Bob Bisquez. The lead programmer is a guy by the name Jim Klassen. We're currently looking at a situation where we would call our secondary programmer or programmers as being gapped. User interface developer came on board in September of 2023, and that was Caitlin Walters. And I have to say I fell on my sword big time, and I see Karen's on the call. Yesterday afternoon, I got so absorbed in another project that, Karen, you have my most sincere apology that I missed the call to discuss with you coming on board as a technical document writer. But I understand from discussion with Bob, it sounds like you're interested and want to play, so that'd be a lovely thing. Do you want to chime in at this point or remain?
Yes. Hi, everybody. Thanks for including me today. Yeah, Bob took really good care of me yesterday and got me up to speed on as much as he could in the short amount of time. And I'm pretty excited about joining you guys.
Okay, that's wonderful.
Yeah, welcome, Karen.
So, Karen, paper is the last thing I need in the world right now. Although I can do it, paper is the last thing I need. So,
how about files?
Yeah, no, can't go there either. Thanks, Karen. Appreciate it. So here we go. Indirect support. It's how do you say it's the same old people or something along the lines of the same suspects. There, I got it. Okay. So the outreach legal piece, of course, Barb Cedarberg and Dean Parker.
Steve, go back and you skip Caitlin.
Not that I don't. In what sense?
Well, you didn't kind of introduce her and tell them what she's doing.
Yeah, Bob, actually, I did that last time, and you were in.
The reason that I wanted you to say something is because I wanted to say that she's kind of taken a little bit of the lead programmer stuff on as well. So she's just
okay.
Step up.
I'll shut up and let Caitlin talk. Caitlin, are you here?
I am here. Yeah, hello. I wasn't ready for this, but yeah, just been doing a lot of the user interface stuff for the underground mapping project. Dipping my toes in the water with some of the more back end stuff, and some of the stuff that Jim's been working on. But also hello, Karen. It's been a while.
It's old home week. All right, we like
Yeah.
it. All right, thanks, Caitlin. Appreciate it. Okay, OCC operations and outreach. That's why I was pinging on Adam there. Adam Franco, John Regner has been involved in the discussions about the technology end of implementing things. And then, as I asked to Adam earlier, Sonia Miles has come on. That's where the question mark is. And then we've already introduced Kurt and Courtney. So that team is providing indirect support. And then, of course, me being the admin pack mule, financial management through Nancy Reed, and then records management currently gapped. And I'll explain what the thought is on that one. So here we go with that. Secondary programmers needed or needs. Bob sent me a list that amounts to open source GDL with Postgres, open-end leaflet development, and web server stack maintenance. So we're either looking for a single body or maybe a couple to kind of help us with that piece, again, as we go wide and go fast. Technical documentation needs. We've already talked to Karen, and I'm hopeful that we'll be able to work with Karen to get us up on weekly reports, perhaps start sketching in some thoughts on a white paper. But the thrust of where we're going to try to go is software documentation. And then Bob's got lots of thoughts and plans for how to heavily integrate informational icons in what will end up being the final FuzionView product, so that literally at your fingertips will always be information to sort out what you need to be looking at or thinking about. So that takes us down to records management. After Christmas break goes by, I'll go up to the U of M and see if I can find some slave labor, because again, just by virtue of the amount of meetings that I'm talking about in the recordings and the documents, I need somebody to zero in and work on getting all of that organized in a way that makes it a library of reference that's available to all that need it. So that's the thinking on that one. Okay, issues, policy things that are kind of out there drifting around. There's been repeated discussions in our leadership team, and we've ended up having to table this thing because we're not sure how we want to think about that ultimately. But there's been much discussion around management and potential storage of field collected data and discovery of unknown or abandoned infrastructure kind of information. And as I've said, we've tabled it because we thought we ought to work our way along on the engineering piece, and maybe the clarity on how we should think about that will bubble forward or bubble up as we move forward. How will access to the FuzionView be granted downstream from a facility operator, and the employee or the contract personnel through the FO or individual accounts? Well, that one is currently being batted around and worked. And then we did an initial review of the user interface, and as Bob indicates there, has resulted in a significant number of changes. So that, again, that's status of something that's in work. That takes us over to swim lane 3, unless from the floor there are additional thoughts, ideas, questions, even death threats. I don't know. Where are we? Okay, hearing nothing. Product development. So what I will try to do for you is give you the verbal description of what's been achieved, even though I have no idea what I'm talking about, and then issues being worked. And then Bob's going to try to pull it all together with a demo. It's the old standard thing of tell people 3 times, and by the 3rd time, hopefully they'll get where things are at. So here's what's been achieved to date. Access to MnDOT data set is indeed working. We've deployed the first, and this is literally in the last quarter. We've deployed the first dev development, is now in place at ShareGeo. Bob's team came at the development of what will be in the hands of the facility operators and folks in the field, so on, by using an approach which builds first on mobile. And as you'll see from Bob's show here, how that moves up and down. And touchscreen user interface has been developed. A ticket ingest archiving is now in place, and that amounts to a registration of information strictly about the ticket itself, not any of the data. And then determine initial install, and we'll use the ShareGeo account management. That's been the ball that's been being batted back and forth between OCC and ShareGeo, and they finally came to the determination for the initial install. And I hope I got this, if Adam's still on the call, I hope I got this right, that ShareGeo account management will be the primary initially. And then
You're correct there.
Okay.
Correct. Yep.
Okay. And then additional layer sources have been determined, and location of the data has been tentatively identified. And this was nothing more than a research project, because we've been hearing things about, wouldn't it be nice to have, information about environmentally sensitive areas or archaeological burial sites, or, what watershed we're in from the engineering teams. So we've kind of done some initial legwork to run that down, and have got some idea where it might be located. And as the project moves forward, that stuff will get implemented.
Another very recent one that you can add on to that list is that popped up in some of the engineering conversations, was related to how an engineering entity might publish or post their projected project or planned project areas for use in, by the same system that everybody here is using for underground, but being able to do things where they only have to dig once, for 5 different things underground. That kind of a question. Still way up in the air, but it was interesting that popped up.
Yeah, that mimics, I think, some of the stuff that goes on in the Montana system, as I remember it. In Pennsylvania, 811 has got, as I remember it, has got a system that largely allows that posting. So that would be that would be a nice feature to bring on board as we move forward. But as we remember, our focus right now is to try to get that engineering piece up and functioning to the degree that, no kidding, we've got, we know how to build fire, so there we go. And then issues currently being worked. We've determined basically that within the resident working group across several different entities, that 508 compliance that we had some concerns about, there are experts on board within the working team already, and that issue will go by the wayside. MnDOT coordination, we're currently working on an access speed issue, and Bob again will show you that. And then onboarding process is being documented on their end from the perspective of MnDOT. What did they run into in determining access issues, automation steps, as return on, etc., that we can start using to build the knowledge base about how to think of things from the facility operator's perspective. And then the design is underway of self-service processes, which will be used to automate the facility operator sign up process after we have on board our pioneer partners and are far enough down the road that we can, if you will, get to the point where the process is accepted well enough that we can have an online sign up process, but we're already thinking about how to develop that, how to build that, what should that look like. And then finally, FO dashboard has begun development. And I think with that, I thought I was going to be able to jump down to demo. It shows how little I know, because these guys are working on lots of different stuff at once. And so here's some more. Symbolization issues are under review. Systems for troubleshooting and monitoring performance are being put in place. So think about that one from the perspective of when we did the Glencoe pilot, there really wasn't any need for a system monitoring or troubleshooting system to be put in place. And that's what this piece is about. The ability to handle multiple and single data streams from the same source is being developed. And this was something that just recently bubbled up in discussions back and forth between OCC and Shared Geo, and thinking about what the data structures were over at MnDOT. What would be the capabilities to be able to share different approaches to moving data. So that's what that beast is about. And then OCC coordination. System integration issues are being addressed, as I probably already beat the dead horse here. And then access to name referencing by FuzionView is being worked. Bob will talk about that a little bit also. And then there's also lots of heavy back-end issues relating to scaling, the ability to, if you will, explode the system to cover the entire state and to cover the level of hits on the system that will be ongoing, and then testing of that is also being worked.
I can add on to that third line here, right here. It probably makes more sense to do it right now.
Okay.
It related to that multiple data stream stuff. What we discovered as we were making our discussions with OCC is that the OCC system doesn't necessarily track as high of a fidelity in who owns what related to feature data management in an organization. I'm going to grossly simplify my statement here, but OCC tends to kind of treat the organization name, like the state of Minnesota as an organization. I'm sure they have some subsections there as well, but really behind the scenes on the Minnesota side, they have everything separated by district around the state. And then inside those districts, they have people that are managing traffic information systems, separate from people that are managing roadway culverts, separate from people that are managing the pavement. And they're all kind of their own fiefdoms, and they have their own management structures. And the facility management side of it that the FuzionView system is going to need to connect to and organize things by is at a higher fidelity generally than what OCC is collecting. So we're still going to have to be able to merge that stuff back together to be able to tie everything into the OCC ticket, but it's going to be like a many to one kind of relationship. And it's just a new wrinkle. It's nothing we can't handle. It's just another.
Just to clarify, Bob, there some members have it broken down so that every single person or group has its own district code, but others may have one district code statewide that they then divvy up across, several different divisions on their side. So it's not a hard, fast rule. It's up to the member to decide how they structure that, and whatever they choose is what we put into the system.
Yeah, and that's what I was trying to convey, is it's something that we're going to have to support functionally.
So with that, Bob, I think, I don't know why, we are to the point where you are ready to do a demo, and I'm going to stop the share and you can get underway.
Some of you have seen this slide before. I just decided to start from here just as a really quick refresher. This is kind of the organizational or functionality separation of how everything kind of works inside the FuzionView universe. Generally, the idea is that you start out with a request from the ticketing system at OCC, and that ticket goes into the FuzionView engine and is recorded. So the polygon that they request, the begin date, end date, all that metadata information related to the ticket is recorded in the FuzionView system. And it also includes a list of potential facility operators that might have something within that particular boundary of interest for the ticket. That information, once it's stored, is used to go out to each one of the participating facility operators that are sharing their data with the FuzionView system, and it goes out and collects the data for each one of those particular data sets that they're sharing with the FuzionView engine. Once those data sets are captured, they're pulled back into the FuzionView engine and merged into the categories that we've already decided to separate on by the APWA standards, same coloring standards that they use for painting out in the field. And the idea there is that we merge all of that information together, and it's by feature type. We're not specifically worrying about who owns what, although that information is available in the data stream. What we're trying to present is this is what's out there in the field, and this is the kind of thing that it is. So we're merging all that information in, and then we also reproject all of the data into a unified map coordinate system. So the FuzionView engine is using its own publishing coordinate system when it sends the data back out, and it's a standardized form. So then once that data is merged and everything is all organized data-wise, that data that is pulled in for the ticket is only kept from the time that the ticket is created to its end date, which is all passed over when that's part of that metadata from when the ticket is passed in originally. And while that data, or while that ticket is active, the data is available to all of these potentially different types of requesters. So right now we're focusing on the engineering team and how they would make their requests. The FO that we're working with is MnDOT, and we're actually working with WSB, which could be like a contractor for the state as a locator and or an excavator as well. But the point of it is that we're concentrating on the engineering side of the ticketing requests at this time. The feeling being that the engineering folks involved in the engineering side of things are going to understand kind of what we're trying to do here a little bit better. The next piece of it will be the locate, and then we'll obviously run down over into the excavation side as well. So where we're at right now, we are actually pulling in all this is I've got a bunch of slides here that are static. I'm going to run through those real quick, and then I'll do a live demo at the end. This is our current administrative interface. We're actually going to be building a newer one that's much simpler than this. The interface that we're using here is called GMOS. It's a little bit overkill for what we're trying to do on the management side or this administrative aspect. So we're actually going to be building a whole new interface here just for the administrative aspects. But for right now, we're still using that. And what you can see here, these are all the tickets as of yesterday when I made this slide that have been pulled over into the active tickets that are in the FuzionView system currently. So back to our demo area, this is where we got the most data available to us right now, is back in the demo area. So we're down in the Glencoe area, and you can see that the live tickets are being pulled in there. Just as a reminder, we're tying all of this, we're making all of this new capabilities available as an augmentation to the original GSOC ticket. So this is kind of like the top third of their ticket, which includes all that metadata I talked about, who requested the data, the beginning date of the ticket, end date, that kind of stuff is all included in that section. This middle section is kind of related to the different facility operators that may have information that overlaps the ticket area of interest. And then the bottom third of the GSOC ticket is the mapping interface that they present with the ticket. So what we're trying to do is really augment this. We don't want to change anything that's already there. We want to add to it with the feature side of things. So getting back into our administrative interface, I've zoomed into a particular ticket here, and you can see if anybody remembers last time we got together, when we did this, you would only get one row related to each one of the tickets, but you'll see there on the left side that we've got 2 rows per each ticket. And what that amounts to is that we're able to use the APIs behind the scenes to build new interfaces against. The FuzionView engine at its core is a set of APIs that can be accessed for various items. So one of those items are these output reports. So when we first did our first demo, our output report looks like this. This is still in place. This is still available inside of the FuzionView engine as an output option. So this is our original one that we had where we had all of the separated maps available. The new one looks like this. So this is, you're looking at a desktop version of the ticket view right now, but this is the same ticket. You'll notice that all of the features that are being pulled in are on top. Well, you can't see it from the map here, but the idea here is that all of these features are actually drawn on the interface now. So you have the option of being able to pick on them, any of the features in the interface, and get information related to that particular feature. The reason that we're going this route of actually loading the features into the map is because we're shooting for this to be able to function in an offline mode. So the idea that you download this page, get it into your browser, and as long as the cache is not erased, the page will be active even out in the field, and all of the information you'll need will be within the ticket itself to be able to grab at that information while you're out in the field. You don't need an internet connection. That's what our end goal is. And we've gotten we're down the road and building that, and now we're not completed with it yet, but that's something that we're shooting for. There's different views into the data here. You'll look at the different buttons up in the upper right there. If you pick on one of those, you'll see that you can get at the list of FOs that are, facility operators that may have some information, or that do have information related to this particular ticket. So you can see that this information listing here is actually going to be augmented a little bit better. I mean, we're going to enhance this a little bit better and make it a little cleaner, but the point of it is that all of this information is coming in from that same API that we used originally for the original demos that we did last year. This is another view that pops up when you hit one of the other buttons up there in the upper right. And you'll notice that we're trying to really kind of go down this route of really making everything simple and obvious when you first look at it. The idea here is that this is going to be used out in the field, so that we're trying to make the interface very simple and very obvious so you can use it very quickly. And the idea for this particular one is it shows you based on the dots and the color coding, which layers actually have information available, and you can control and turn the layers on and off from this dialog box. So when you pop over back into the map, you'll see that the different layers can be turned on and off. We are actively going with a mobile first development angle. So from day one, when we started rebuilding this output, the idea was that we were going to shoot for that mobile approach. You can see here that we're emulating a phone screen. So this is the same exact ticket that we were just looking at. I've got a zoomed in view on one side and a zoomed out view on the other, on the right side. And then these are the same windows that we looked at for the facility operators and the layers that had information loaded into them. There's going to be some more additions to these particular dialogues, some things about you're going to have very soon you'll have the option of downloading the data in a couple of formats. We're probably going to get to the point where we'll set it and then ask for a review from the community and see what other types of formats they want to have the data available for downloading. But the idea would be that you could pull the data directly into your engineering software of choice. So initially, we're going to start, I think, with a JSON feed and a WFS get capabilities. So you'll be able to use that WFS link in whatever software can support the WFS calling structure. Just to kind of round out things, this is a recent slide that I put together for the leadership group to try and indicate to them where we're kind of at, based on that first slide that I brought up. I modeled this somewhat off of that. The colors, where I'm going with the colors is the darker or brighter, or darker or darkest hues are the things that are the most mature. The blues are generally in place already. The reds and pinks are just, we're just getting started on those. So they're just starting to be put together. And the biggest thing that we're kind of working on right now is that facility operator dashboard. And the idea there is that that dashboard is going to be where we're going to handle an organizational login, and then how they're going to handle looking at a list of multiple tickets. So the idea would be that this dashboard would be how you would jump into separate tickets if you have a larger organization that needs to manage more than one ticket. Right now, we're really focused on that whole engineering side of the thing. And you'll see here probably within, I would say the first month of next year, a lot more of this stuff turning blue. There's not a lot more stuff that we're going to start new until we get into the locate request side of it. So majority of what you see here on this particular slide will kind of start turning blue here. So with that, I can jump into a live demo here just to kind of run through it real quick. So this is our demo area, and I can turn on the tickets. This is the Glencoe area. So I can turn on the ticket layer and do an identify, just like we've always been able to do. But now you can see that we've got more than one record that we have available. So the old report is still there. So we can still, populate everything with this old reporting mechanism. So it separates all of the maps out, and, you have options for, doing different things in each one of the maps. And then the top map, does its own thing. And it also acts as your master, navigator kind of thing. But at the same time, the newer ticket system operates off of the same exact API that is feeding that previous report. But now the information is being pulled in and pulled together into a leaflet interface. And now you can just click on a particular piece of information and a pop-up will display for a particular feature item. So you can get at any of the information that you need to, and zoom in and zoom out. We're going to be working on the next thing that we've been working towards is actually starting to work out different kinds of line types for the zoomed in version of things. So some of the line types that I've been working on are trying to figure out what's the best way of shadowing a particular line. Majority of the lines are probably going to be dashed because we're going to be based on the idea that some of the standards around is that unless we know something is like right on and it's at the top level quality, that's the only line work that we're going to present as a solid line. And the solid line aspect of it is going to indicate that it's very accurate. Dash lines are going to be how we're going to represent the fact that we're not sure exactly how accurate something is. There's a threshold there that we have to figure out community-wide and, kind of justify how that's supposed to work. But that's kind of the general approach that we're going to go down. And lastly, I wanted to show how this could work in from the perspective of a phone screen. So this is the same, I'm emulating a screen right now from a phone. And you can see that now I'm in a touch interface. And I could still do the same kinds of things with popping up information about, particular entities that we're looking at. And then we also have, the different options of going back and forth in the information. Again, we'll have more options for jumping back into other information related to the ticket itself. And, as we move forward, other things will probably present themselves for information that we want to link to as well. That's pretty much where we're at right now. So, questions?
Nobody has any questions for Bob?
Bob, I have a question just philosophically about the back end or the interfaces. Obviously, a mobile first sort of development process. So you've got this app there. I don't know if you know or where. We have an app that deals with the click system in the Netherlands, which is doing exactly all this stuff. Is there any thinking in the future about, the ability to connect different apps or interfaces to the process of what FuzionView is doing? Okay.
Yeah. Think about this interface that you're looking at here as just our take on demonstrate.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's perfect. So, you mentioned the APIs, and so I figured that might be the case. It's just a whole bunch of APIs. You can make these calls the way you were talking about reporting and then building these particular screens. seem
Correct.
to be all based on those APIs. So that's cool. Okay.
So
it's-
anybody
it's
could build
possi-
their own, they could build their
Yeah.
own app or pull it into their own application. And
So technically, we could build a prototype between that our click viewer and the back end here once we understood the API structures, right?
yes,
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, just
yeah, we could
alternatives.
actually entertain something like that really
Really
pretty soon.
quickly. Yeah. I was just thinking, where we'd come along and sort of look at how we could bring some of our thinking. I mean, we've been doing this for nearly 12 years in the Netherlands, right? And they're fully, if you're aware of them, they're miles ahead of what the new are doing in the UK. And I guess we'd love to sort of. This is probably where our expertise is pretty mature to some degree, because the excavators and locators are using what we call the click viewer, in the Netherlands, have been doing that for many, many years. And so, hey, I love this. That's why I love this whole concept. And, if we could possibly demonstrate more than one application, then it shows other people they can do the same thing.
Yep.
Yeah,
That was the intent from the beginning, was to set everything up as an API. And then I think we're going to have a lot more specialized stuff from our perspective on the styling of the map when we get into it. Because when we get into zooming down to an intersection, that's where a lot of the specialty stuff is going to come into play. We're just starting that now.
Thanks, Bob.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Bob, I guess you dazzled everybody.
Or put them to sleep.
Okay.
Well, one more comment. Bob, it's a great job. It looks really good. I think the way you've built it and the concepts, and of course using modern design work, is looking really good. So applaud you guys on what you've done today. It looks really good.
Thanks.
Thank you, Dwayne. Appreciate that comment. Okay. All right. So we got a chat comment from Kevin. He's saying dazzled is the right word. Okay. Well, that's good feedback. We'll take it. And I think we've got some more slides to go, and we'll get to where we need to be to finish things up. So thanks again, Bob. Appreciate the demo. And I'm not entirely sure I shared my screen correctly. Hold on here.
Well, there's a question here from Dean too, though. So I don't see an asset owner listed as part of the additional information. It is in there in a couple of them. It's not in all of them. If you look at the one that's popped up right there, it's showing that it's CenturyLink. It's just in the way that we're presenting the information. We're going to be cleaning that up considerably.
Yes, I saw that on the follow-up. Thanks.
Just got to be smarter than the PowerPoint, which is very hard for me to do. Okay. I assume you can see my screen, and it should say swim lane number 4, sister projects. Are we good? Somebody give me a thumbs up. All right, Dean. Thanks, sir. Okay. There's 2 out there that we're kind of in cahoots with, or at least window shopping. That might be a better term. The National Underground Asset Register in the UK, and then the folks wander around there up there in Canada. And they're kind of schizophrenic about names. I think that's third version of a name for them, but here you go. In case you're not aware of it, just released by the Newark folks. They just published a 15-page project update. I'll make sure I get it down to the OCC folks. But here's what you may find of interest. And I pulled it, obviously, I pulled it directly out of there. It said, due to the rapid progress made in partnership with asset owners, we were able to expand the minimum viable product coverage. Basically, they're telling us they now cover all of England. So they are ahead of schedule. And from reading in some of the other places in the document, it sounds like what they ran into was far more interest in cooperation than they originally had anticipated. And it goes on to tell us the story that they're now aggregating or holding storage of data from 176 organizations. So let me back up for a second. For those of you that are not familiar with either the Scottish Vault or this particular project, they took a much different approach to how to do this than what this effort's been about. Their theory was to, if you will, build a big pot and dump everything in it. So their approach requires all of these participating organizations to provide the data from those organizations into this pot, and then their service hits the pot to pull it all together. Whereas our approach, if you've been tuned in, is built on the thought of building that information on the fly. And we think, given the particular sensitivities in this country, this might actually be in the US, this might actually be what they've done in the UK is further demonstration that we've taken our level of security even further than a country like the UK, which has a substantial security risk factor that they deal with. So this is, in terms of terrorist attacks, short of 9/11, they're probably ahead of the United States. So, here's an example. And I just wanted to catch us all up on the fact that's where the UK is. They started out approximately 18 months ahead of us, and we're probably about a year behind them. So there we are. Here we go with what's going on up in Canada. That's the Subsurface Utility Data Map Exchange, data exchange, which is largely versus the UK effort, which is sitting on, I think, something like $12 million. The Canadian effort is the other extreme, and we're kind of caught in the middle. It's a grassroots effort right now. They have no money. They're trying to get some momentum building, and it's the idea of using us as an example of what could be. And so they've done largely a word of mouth promotion with flyers recently at the Canadian Common Ground Alliance conference in Quebec City. And they're anticipating to shift the monthly meetings, mostly likely to stay 2 p.m. Central Time on Wednesday or Thursday. And as you can see, they use some of our screenshots. Their vision is to use the open source product that comes out of our efforts. And I think that about would say where the folks are up in Canada. Any questions on that as we move on to the next item that we're going to talk about? And that's swim lane number 5. Any questions before we move on? Thoughts, comments? Here it is. Here's a final thought for you. I'm sorry. Somebody.
I was going to just I guess I'm really close to Newer because we run the UK service, the excavation service, if you like, the 811 service. And what's interesting is it's political, massively political, that because it's done by a government agency. And yes, you're right, they're trying to do a centralized repository, but guess what they're not doing? This system is not going to be for excavation, for digging up, for excavation. It's going to be for design. And that's not very clear. So they have this vision at the moment that they're not going into that, and it's not going to be available to private people. So it's not going to be available to Mars and Pars. So it's got a real interesting problem because there is some support, I guess, because the government might mandate it. But, when they start saying they've got all of the utilities in England, that's actually, I don't know where they're saying that and why they say that, but they're a pretty good PR machine because the utilities are saying they don't want to participate because it's not getting to what the root causes, which is damage prevention. This is really a system around coordinating and understanding utility infrastructure for the government. And that seems to be lost on a lot of people because it seems like this is the new 811 replacement system, and that's not quite what it is. So that's just a comment from a very interested party.
Dwayne, we really appreciate that. For those of you that aren't aware, he's tuning in all the way from Australia. So he's really on the backside of the clock, and we truly appreciate you making the effort to join these meetings because we've been drinking the Kool-Aid from what's been coming over to us about where they are and what's going on. So
It's probably a
great.
conversation to be had over a beer or two about where they're going, what they're doing, and why they have to keep going with where they're going and what they're doing, because they actually received like 20 or 30 million pounds to do this thing, and that's sort of got to succeed to some degree. But there's a lot of challenges, like you've said. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Any more thoughts? Going once, going twice, gone. Here we go. Here's our final thought. Oh, wait a minute. It's not a swim lane, it's a jacuzzi. Okay, so what I'm trying to get across here is if you step back, for some folks, we're not moving fast enough or whatever, but the way I would like you to think about this is within this jacuzzi setting, sitting there with a glass of wine or whatever, reflecting on where we are. Let's talk about the start of 2023 versus the end of 2023. When we started out this year, we had no signed funding agreements and no money in the bank. There was no one that was officially a pioneer partner on moving this thing forward. There was no proven capability beyond the demo. We really didn't have any vision for the staff structure. Research interviews had not been conducted. More than 8 of those have taken place. There was no dev environment that had been built, and there was no promotional material and professional development, and so on. I'm sure there's other thoughts out there and you can think about them, but we've come a long way in a year. But it's obvious to all of us, we can't rest on our laurels. We can take a break over Christmas and the rest of it, but right back at it as soon as we can, because there's some big hills to climb here. So here's kind of a parting thought about where we need your help. Think about these things as you're sitting here on this particular event, and it's not, we've moved from the point of us briefing you to this project now getting ready to be fired out of the cannon, but we still are in need of transitioning. How you think about it is not just going along for the ride, but re-engaging like it was when we first started out back in 2020, 2021, when there were lots of spaghetti getting thrown up against the wall, how to make things. Well, now we're into the implementation, make it happen phase. And here's how you can help us. Near term going forward, to the degree that you can within your communities, within your working groups, socialize what we're doing here. There are repeated indications from feedback stories that we get that the community, once it understands what this project's about, is on board. So help us spread the word. Personnel gaps. We've talked through a couple of them. And if I was talking through them and you're thinking, man, I wonder if so-and-so's got some extra time and would be interested in moonlighting. If you know people out there that would make sense to fill gaps for us, please, by all means, you can either shoot me or Barb a note and let us know about, somebody you think maybe we should talk to. And then finally, you have to remember that PHMSA money came in the door just on a quirk. It was a guy pulling Barb aside at a conference and saying, hey, do you know about this grant? And that's how we got awareness on that grant being there and the potential for that to fit into this project. So if you're aware of money out there somewhere, either through a grant process or application to a big company like, AT&T or whatever the case is, again, please shoot us a note to let us know about that capability or that thought out there. And then finally, I don't want to say finally, I guess the way I would ask you to think about how the pace will pick up for you personally, as we get that website to the point where we think we have something that truly works, you will see a tickler. I want to not say, possibly, but you will see a tickler from me asking for people to come through and review it and give us feedback. Please help us with that. Same thing will go on with the promotional material review. And finally, as I've already indicated, we'll get to the point where we're going to need people to, bang on and jump on and whatever the product itself and give us solid feedback so we can keep marching towards delivering the best possible product for both the open source community and of course, the delivery of services across the state of Minnesota. And I would stop by saying, if there's anything else anybody can think of out there at this point, please chime in. Otherwise, we'll move on to the open forum discussion. Going once, going twice, gone. Okay. Open discussion. So there's some eggheads out there. I know there are that have got questions, ideas, whatever that would make sense to bring to the forefront. And with that, so we don't have to look at this ugly picture, the forum is open, and I'll put up a slide that shows us the last lingering thoughts of the beauty of autumn fading away. Okay. And with that, the floor is wide open. Typical Barb, nobody wants to say anything.
Well, then you know what happens, because I really value, after all of this talking, what's gone through people's minds as they've listened and what ideas and comments they have. So if there's no volunteers, then we really should ask people, Steve, because I know we have a lot of great people on this call that have some thoughts. And even if you think, oh, you're going in this direction, that's not quite right, do this.
Hey, this is David Phillips at Enbridge. I have a question. I don't know if my company is going to give centerline data. I saw you had line 93 in there across Minnesota, but the question I have is that have you looked at any of the commercially off the shelf critical infrastructure centerline data that's out there, like map search or RexTag? Just for, just you can have something in there so it can kind of give you an idea if you're near one of those major pipeline companies' assets.
David, this is Dean Parker. I think that the short answer is we have not looked at that. And unlike some of the companies that are thinking about using AI to predict what is underground, we are still looking, at least at this point, as FuzionView as a conduit for communication of data exchange information between facility operators and designers or excavators. And so the hope, at least here in the US, is that we're going to gain traction and get a lot of voluntary cooperation in the sharing of data. If we don't get that, I'm sure that somebody at some point is going to start thinking about something like that. At least from Gopher State One Call's perspective, because we're operating really as the conduit for communication between the stakeholders, I don't think we would have an interest in providing extra guesstimate data, if you will.
Well, of course, unless you can get it for free, possibly, or gratis.
Well, even if we were to get it for free, our mission is to act as the communications conduit, not to create information, out of whole cloth. So to a certain extent, at least so far, the philosophy has been, we want to provide what the facility operators are willing to provide. And so in a situation like Enbridge, where I think maybe there's some doubt as to whether they want to use a system like this, we would have to figure out a way to clearly communicate to the end user that Enbridge has chosen not to supply data.
Gotcha. Thank you.
And then at some point that'll become embarrassing to your senior management.
Yeah, you're probably right about that too.
And
Hey.
we'll figure out how to deal with that. But that's years down the road.
Well, I'm staying involved because I want to stay abreast of this, because this could, this could catch on and like fire and be all over the United States, if not federal.
I think minds will change over time, and then right now we're hearing a lot about homeland security issues and competitive issues, but those are frequently used by people just as a way of saying, I've got enough to do and I don't want to have to think about this. But they're going to have to think about it, because the utility of what Steve and his team are putting together is simply too valuable to the overall industry to ignore.
And I want to add this, that pipeline operators are being required to increase the accuracy of the location of their assets, and those have to be reported through NPMS. So
Well,
the feds may.
I don't know if I was aware of that, so we'll have to talk offline about that.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I can fill you in on that. Yeah, but they required the accuracy requirements have gone up, and they've been, a lot of companies, kind of balked at it, but it's still the law. They were given more time to comply, but yeah, pipeline submissions are getting a little bit more intense, a lot more intense actually.
David, was that driven by the document that was released in September or October?
No, this initiative actually started. Ooh, man, this started actually around like 2015.
Okay.
Yeah,
Because in some of the recent research, I came across a manual that had just been released, and it wasn't clear as to what they were referencing about updated accuracy requirements.
Yeah, I went to Washington in 2015 to the initial hearing where they actually unveiled these new requirements, and they said they were coming soon, but soon in government time is like 20 years possibly, federal government time. So especially after the pipeline industry's advocates kind of balked at it, and so did several operators.
Okay, got it.
We can't spend this much money this fast to get you what you want.
Got it.
We don't want to spend this much money this fast to get you what you want.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-oh. Barb's gonna pull out the time to start randomly calling on people.
I did my part.
Thank you, David.
You did.
You're welcome.
How about if I call on somebody?
Yeah, you just call on a few lucky winners, lucky contestants.
I want to call on Paul, because he's been kind of in this up to his arms as well. So, Paul, teacher, are you out there? Did I pronounce your name correct?
I am, yeah, close enough. So my dad always says if you say my last name right, I'm in trouble. So go the other way. But I did want to point out that while I like this last slide here, the one before it, I kind of resemble that, and I was fond of that one as well. So we'll leave it at that. Great work. This is awesome. I like where it's going. Something I am noticing out in the field working with operators, there seems to be a growing concern just, as young operators are coming into the field, they do want to be more accurate in their locates. So there's a very conscious effort on their part to improve how they're practicing or improve their technique as well. So I think, the combined effort here with young new operators and what we're doing, I think it's all going to go in the right direction.
Thank you. Barb, why did you call on somebody? This is where everybody leaves a meeting. Have you ever noticed that?
All right, this is Kevin Max, Austin Utilities. As a early member to the group who has been pulled away and haven't been able to be on the last couple of meetings, your jacuzzi view was dead on how far this has come. I said dazzled is the right word for Bob's demonstration. I am so proud to be a part of it, even though I haven't been a very big contributor, but I'm so proud to be a part of the group. Barb and Bob and all the folks that have been doing the demonstrations and giving the talks at the various conferences, you must get mobbed after your presentations.
Kevin, we should be presenting this at our next Southeast, Water Buffalo Lodge meeting.
That really is half the effort, is getting the word out there. And I'll tell you right now, I've been presenting things in the spatial industry for probably 25 years, pretty solid, maybe a little bit longer than that. I have not gotten as much feedback from audiences as I have on this particular project ever. So.
And I have been trying to plug the efforts of the group with AWWA water schools at AWWA Minnesota board meetings, which is where I'm supposed to be in St. Paul right now, but I'm on this. I'm sorry, I'm involved in too many things. I have to make decisions I don't like to as to which meeting I attend. But the PUCC, one of the 7 round the state of Minnesota utility coordinating committees. I've been trying to plug the efforts of this group, trying to get that word out there. Mike Mendiola at MinOps and others that hopefully vouch for me. I have been, I don't know, trumpeting at volume 10, but at least volume 6 or 7.
Well, we certainly appreciate that, Kevin. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and Kevin, next week I'm giving an overview at the Minnesota CGA meeting on the 13th.
Somebody mentioned a Southwest group. What was the name of that again?
Yes, we have a Southeast GIS user group that we get together 3 times a year. From Red Wing to Austin Utilities, sometimes host it to Owatonna. And we usually have a pretty good showing. I think we just, celebrated our 20th anniversary not that long ago. But a lot of public utilities are involved with this group. We should be presenting there. I could help with that if someone could help with the material.
Yeah, go ahead and get it scheduled and we'll be there.
Thank you, Damon. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
Otherwise, yeah, I'm just excited. I want to know when we can start using it.
We'll get there.
Yeah.
Just it's not like watching grass grow, but
I know.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, I think that's a wrap then, Steve.
Okay.
Unless somebody else wants to make a comment. I don't want to,
Yep.
force people to talk, but it really helps to hear the input.
So we'll shut her down on the count of 3. So if somebody's got something else they want to chime in with, please unmute and throw it at us. Oh, we got a chat thing here. What do we got? Eric gave us a thumbs up. Great work. Appreciate that. Okay. So on the count of three, we'll move on. Going once, going twice, gone. All right, here we are. If I can get there. All right, there it is. So you're going to go from fall to, everybody's going to walk outside today and say, "Oh, it's not coming. We'll be okay." All right, your next meeting, Thursday, March 14th of 2023. Oh, isn't that awful? See, I still screwed it up. That's 2024. Sorry, everybody. Anyway, 1 p.m. Central. There'll be a tickler. It'll come out afterwards. Anyone else final thoughts? Otherwise, Barb, you get a chance to shut us down. And we'll go
my
from
comments
there.
are, thank you all for your time and effort today. And I just hope everybody has happy holidays.
And there it is. Happy
There you go.
holidays.
Yep.
And before we wander away, the final thought is I would rather be a man who bought the Brooklyn Bridge than the man who sold it. Will Rogers. Have a great Christmas and New Year holiday. We'll see you in March. Take care, everybody.
Thanks,
you.
everyone.
Thanks so much.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thanks.